Today I'm trying 3 quick bread recipes from Muffins More. I had to do it. I just had to do it. This is the 3rd book in the very popular Companies Coming series. This is a Canadian series. You can even see this is a national bestseller. And the last time I did a Companies Coming video, it was 150 delicious squares, and people really enjoyed that one. And I had a lot of comments asking, when are you gonna do Muffins and More? And I'm gonna do it now. I did track down a copy of this book. I specifically wanted sort of like an 80s copy of this book because it was so popular. It was republished multiple times, so you have later editions. I wanted something a little bit earlier. This book was originally published in 1983. I think I have maybe an 86 version. Yes, I have the 1986 version. So let's get ready to make some muffins and maybe even more. I'm gonna start with some coffee cake muffins. And these are the coffee cake muffins that I'm going to be making. We really love coffee cake in our house, and I love the idea of like individual servings. So I definitely had to give this one a try. These coffee cake muffins begin with flour, baking powder, and salt. So I have a 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour in here. I have 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and I have 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And I just need to mix that together. And then I'm gonna set this aside. All right, bringing in my hand mixer for the next step. The next step begins with sugar. I have 1/2 cup of sugar, yes, 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, and I have 1/4 cup of very soft butter. It has been warm here the last few days, but today the high is 80, which as far as I'm concerned, makes it okay for me to bake. But the days prior to this, I was not really interested in turning on the oven. But it did help soften my butter a little bit. Beat butter, sugar, and egg together well. I'm gonna start by beating the butter and the sugar together for a couple of minutes. I just wanted to get that butter and sugar a chance to get going first before I add 1 egg. I need to mix that again. The recipe said to mix these things together well, and I would say I mixed those together well. I probably mixed this for a full like 2 minutes or so just to make sure everything was incorporated. But now we have more things to mix in. Milk. Yeah, well, maybe I could have gone bigger on this bowl, but we'll see, and it's too late now anyway. And I also have 1 teaspoon, no, I'm sorry, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. All right, 3/4 cup of milk and 1/2 teaspoon vanilla. Now I'm gonna mix again. We'll do a slow speed for this. I don't wanna splash everywhere. But I brought my flour mixture back over, and I have to make a little well in here because this stuff is gonna go in the well. Here it is, it's in the well, and now I need to stir to moisten. So I'm gonna try to be a little gentle here. By the way, yes, I have some spatulas with wooden handles, and I have some that are all silicone, and I like both of them for different reasons. These are very easy to clean. A couple people commented worried that like, oh no, there's a break here and it's gonna get gross. You can take that off and clean it out, and I let everything like air dry so it doesn't get gross. I don't let my spatulas get gross. Most of the silicone ones that I have are the GIR, Get It Right brand gear. I think it's like what you're supposed to say. I usually have one of those tagged in the video. So we're just moistening it, but I want to make sure that I don't have any big pockets of flour that don't get incorporated either. So I'm being gentle, but also I don't want to miss those things. This is looking good. Gonna set that aside because I have to make the spice mix. That consists of 1/2 cup of packed brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of flour, and this is 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Okay, trying to make sure that I get the flour in there. There's no big lumps of brown sugar. This is where everything comes together. I have just a standard 12-cup muffin tin here. These are just like regular size, they're not jumbo or anything special. One thing I like about a lot of these muffin recipes, they make 12. Not every single one makes just 12 muffins, but this one does. A lot of the other ones I was looking at also make just a dozen muffins. That's like still kind of a lot for us, but I can give some of those away. If I had to make 2 tins of these, that's like big sale territory. A lot of the recipes in here seem to make 1 loaf or 12 muffins, just kind of a manageable amount. Spoon part of batter into muffin tins, 1/3 full. I have papers in here. I'm gonna get a little baking spray just as extra insurance. And sometimes, you know, you don't have to do this. I've never made this recipe before. I would like them to come out, so we'll do that. Just do that. I have a scoop here. So I'm gonna scoop a little batter into each one of these. Oh, the batter is really nice and kind of like fluffy. It's really good. Like the texture is very nice. This does seem like quite a lot of the spice mix. Ah, oh no. So I'm gonna smooth these with a tiny spatula, like just to make them a little more even before I put the spice mix. This batter is very thick as well. So I just kind of want to make sure that it's actually not like piled to one side. So we're like part of the way full. Sprinkle spice mix over top. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be like fairly generous as well because I mean, I made a lot. My favorite coffee cake recipe is from King Arthur Flour. It's so good. I can link it. I think it's still on their website. The only thing is it makes a huge coffee cake. So it can be a challenge, you know, even for like if you had a slightly bigger family than the number of people I have in my household. It's like a huge cake. So I make that sometimes, but the idea of something like this, individual muffins, I just love. I'm gonna smooth that a little bit. So now I need to distribute the rest of the muffin batter. So I have the batter on top of the muffins. Having a tiny spatula actually really helped here to sort of like spread it a little bit across the top. But anyway, I have my oven preheated to 400 degrees and I'm gonna bake these for 20 to 25 minutes. I'll start with 20 and then we'll see what they look like and go from there. I wanted to make sure and show you a photo of the muffins, trying to avoid the glare, but it's these right here. That is the photo in the book. These are how mine turned out. I baked these for 20 minutes. I went to the minimum amount of time, and that seemed to be right for me. I guess mine do look a little bit more brown, but I don't think that that's a bad thing necessarily. I probably don't even have to tell you how incredible my kitchen smelled while these were baking. You could probably predict that from, you know, all the cinnamon and the brown sugar. I did let these cool in the muffin tins for about 5 minutes, and then I removed them to a wire rack to let them cool most of the way. Actually, pretty much all the way. Just to let some air circulation, prevent them from becoming like too soggy. Okay, so I'm gonna take one, we're gonna peel it. Some of the sugar is sticking a little bit to the paper. So I might not use the papers next time, I might just spray with baking spray. It's not actually making the muffin break or anything. It's still coming off cleanly. There's just a couple of like little spots where I had to kind of like work to get that off. It's very tender. What matters the most is how they taste, so let's taste one. Very good. So the majority of your sweetness is going to come from that sugar and spice mixture, the brown sugar and cinnamon. Because if you think about it, there's only what, like half a cup of granulated sugar in the batter. But it is a very tasty batter. It has like a nice richness to it. Not overly sweet, but it's perfectly sweetened, you know, balanced out with the brown sugar and cinnamon mixture. I think they're going to freeze very well too. So I'm excited to put a few of these in the freezer and have them for later. This next recipe has got me really excited, very riled up indeed. It is another muffin, but it's a savory muffin. I'm going to be making these cheese and bacon muffins. I feel like sweet muffins, you know, they just kind of get all of the attention, but I really love the idea of something savory. And if this turns out well, it could be a really good like breakfast on the go, or something that you could bake and like take on a road trip, you know? Maybe you're in a hurry to get going and you just like make these ahead of time. And they're, you know, hopefully really easy to eat in the car. I'm making things up right now. I've not tried these. I'm kind of projecting my hopes and dreams onto these savory muffins. But before I start baking these hopefully delicious savory muffins, I wanted to give you a little bit of an update on the coffee cake muffins. I enjoyed these so much today. I liked them almost more today than I did yesterday, which yesterday is the day that I baked them. I thought they were delicious yesterday, but for some reason they like really hit the spot today. I could really taste that extra spicy cinnamon. There's like a good amount of cinnamon in that sugar and spice mix, and it was very prominent and very welcome. Sometimes I think, and maybe this happens to you too, when I'm cooking a recipe, by the time it comes time for me to try it, maybe I'm not the best judge because I've like spent a lot of time with it. An example that I like to use is one time I made Ina Garten's fried chicken, and it was kind of an involved recipe. You know, you already might know I don't love like deep frying things and stuff, but I made this fried chicken for dinner once and my husband was like, this is delicious. This is like incredible. I love it so much. I was so done with that recipe. I was just like, it's fine. The coffee cake muffins were not like super involved or anything. And I liked them fine, but I thought they were so good today. Maybe it's just one of those recipes that's better the second time around. But anyway, let's start making these cheese and bacon muffins. In this bowl, I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I also have some sugar. I have 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar, just a hint. I have a tablespoon of baking powder and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Before I get to the next ingredients, I am gonna just kind of like whisk that together, just to make sure those things are kind of like incorporated into a mix, because the next ingredients, what that was 1, 2, 3, 4 ingredients, the next ingredients are like the feature items of this recipe, and that's 1/2 cup of grated sharp cheddar cheese. I grated mine very fine. I have this little hand grater that I like. I can't really link it because it's from the Dollar Tree 100 years ago. Not 100, maybe like 10 years ago, and it's still going strong. If it ain't broke, I'm not gonna get rid of it and replace it. So if I just have to grate a small amount of cheese, it works fine. I also have 5 strips of bacon that I've cooked and crumbled, and those go in next. This is getting exciting. So now I'm gonna mix that together. I opted not to get my hand mixer out because there was no like creaming of butter and sugar or anything in this one. Okay, bacon, cheese. The only other thing I can really think of right now that I would love to add to this, but I'm not gonna, chives. Bacon, cheese, and chives. That could be incredible. But I bet these are pretty good just as they are written too. So I have to make a little well in here. I'm gonna set this off to the side because I have my wet ingredients next. Beat egg slightly in a small bowl. So I have a companion bowl to my big Spring Blossom mixing bowl. This recipe also makes 12 muffins. That's what I kind of liked about the coffee cake muffin recipes. It made a dozen, which is manageable for me. And I have to mix in milk, which is 1 cup of milk, also a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. This is really moving fast. This is moving even faster than the coffee cake muffins. I'm also pretty interested to see how the texture compares with butter versus oil, because otherwise like they were kind of similar. I'm gonna bring my flour mixture back in, pour into well and stir only to moisten. Okay, just like yesterday, pouring into well, stirring only to moisten. So trying to be gentle. I'm using a big spatula once again. You know, I would love to know if any of you have tried this muffin. If you have favorites or must tries, please let me know. Or if you've tried any of the ones, you know, that I'm making for this video, let me know. I'd love to hear about that. I think we're just about there. I just want to make sure there's like a little pocket here that I missed of the flour. As it said, the batter would be lumpy, and lumpy it is. Oh, I didn't get my scoop out. One moment. Coming in with my scoop. And I also brought in my muffin tin with paper liners. We're just gonna try it with the paper liners this time and see how it goes. Fill to 3/4 full. Well, okay. I may need to adjust a little bit the amounts. All right, so I'm gonna get a little spatula and smooth them a bit just to see who needs a little more of this batter. It's very thick, by the way. Almost like a drop biscuit. The texture, I wonder how it's gonna be. Okay, so some of these are pretty light. Throw a little extra in there without the scoop. This looks like mashed potatoes now that I'm looking at it. Oh, that's my oven. Yeah, look, it looks like bacon and cheese mashed potatoes. Not mad about that though. All right, we have 12. And how long do I need to bake these for? 20 to 25 minutes, just like the other muffins. So we'll see how they turn out. I wanted to show you the cookbook photograph of these muffins. I think mine are pretty close. I'm pretty pleased with the appearance, at least. I haven't tried them yet. It said to let these cool in the pan for 5 minutes and then remove them and serve them warm. So that's what I did. I did let them cool they were still really hot after 5 minutes. So I let them cool for an additional 5 minutes, just like on a wire rack here. The real test is gonna be what they taste like. So let's try it. They smell pretty good. I think these are just basically drop biscuits in muffin form. They came off the paper absolutely beautifully. So points there. We're gonna break one open. I dropped a crumb. Pretty good. I like the bacon and cheese flavor a lot. The batter has a wonderful texture. I do find it just like slightly plain. I think my hope for these is like cheddar bay biscuit. I think I would mostly stick to the recipe, but maybe add some kind of seasoning to the batter itself. Maybe like ranch seasoning or seasoned salt, garlic. Maybe brushing these with garlic butter even would be a good thing. I think they're a great start. I think they could use maybe a couple of additions. Actually, I think adding chives to this would be a good plan, whether they be dried chives or fresh. Pretty tasty. Definitely a great start. I think they could just use a little boost. Maybe if I put some butter. Let's try some butter. My little buttery butter dish. Literally, that is what it is called. It's the buttery. That salted butter added a lot to this. So some sort of like other salty quality brought into these would probably be a good thing. But this book is called Muffins and More. And I just felt like I couldn't bake from this book without doing something from the and more section. And what I've settled on is lemon loaf. It runs across 2 pages, so those are the ingredients. And then up here at the top, we've got a couple more things for the glaze and then also the instructions. I was reading through, this is a very similar base to the coffee cake muffins, except it's gonna be in loaf form, so it has a much longer bake time. I love a lemon loaf, so I hope that this one is good. I'm gonna start with a cup of granulated sugar, and then I have half a cup of softened butter that I'm gonna mix in with my hand mixer. I decided to soften my butter by putting it on a little plate, and I have these like wax wraps. So I covered it with one of those and I put it outside just to harness the power of the sun and the heat right now. Don't leave it out like that for too long because your butter is gonna be a puddle. It's gonna be a puddle if you do it for too long. Cream butter, sugar, and 1 egg. So I'll add the egg here. Let's do it. So this is the butter, the sugar, and 1 egg. I have a second egg that I need to add to this. And I am just following the instructions in the recipe. So it said to do it this way. So I'm gonna blend in this egg as well. Getting closer. We have 2 eggs, the sugar and the butter. And it's very nice and fluffy and smooth. And now I need to add half a cup of milk. All right, mix again. I just love the way butter and sugar and eggs, like I just love the way they look when they're mixed together like that. I'm gonna set this aside because we have to focus on the dry ingredients now. Got my little matchy spring blossom bowl again. In a second bowl, thoroughly stir flour, baking powder, salt, and lemon rind. So I have a 1.5 cups of flour here. I have a teaspoon of baking powder. I have half a teaspoon of salt. Give that a little mix first, going into it. And then I have the rind of 1 lemon. And you want to save the lemon because you're going to use the lemon juice for the glaze. I didn't want to do this too far in advance. I didn't want to take the lemon peel off like too far in advance, because then it kind of dries out. It gets all dry and crinkly and you don't have those like wonderful kind of like oils in it. Oh, it smells so good. Anyway, this is the thing I use to get lemon zest. It's like a microplane. I have a regular microplane, but I like this one because there's like a little divot in here that collects all of the zest. If I can find it, I'll link it, but my mom got it for me. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and mix this in. I did notice that in the description of this lemon loaf, it says, a favorite flavor of most people, the glaze makes the loaf. And I can believe it, because the only lemon flavor that you're gonna get in the loaf itself is gonna be this zest. So the rest of it is up to the glaze, which we'll make after the loaf bakes. I think that is thoroughly mixed. Pour over batter and stir to moisten. You're just gonna stir that to moisten. So I've got another big spatula here. Looking good, looking beautiful. I think so anyway. I have to put this batter into a 9x5x3 loaf pan that has been greased. I took a little bit of a shortcut and I used baking spray. So it's like the cooking spray with the flour already in it. That's what I'm using. Also, this is a 9x5x3 loaf pan. I did notice, I was looking at loaf pans the other day, like the foil kind that you get at the grocery store, like if you're doing like a disposable pan to give to someone or something like that, those are usually a little smaller. So be aware. I don't know, like, I don't think it's gonna overflow in one of those pans, but just be aware that this is meant for this size of loaf pan. So if you do it in a smaller one, it's gonna change some things. You might need to keep an eye on the bake time or just be a little careful. But anyway, we're gonna spoon it on in here. Oh, and actually, I got a little sheet tray. This just makes it easier for me to like maneuver in and out of the oven with the loaf pan. So I don't know. I like putting stuff like this on sheet trays. I'm gonna get a spatula for my spatula, one of my little teeny tinies here. I don't really want to scrape this on the side of the loaf pan necessarily, mostly because sometimes when you have some of the batter stuck there, it tends to like burn. So we're gonna just finish this off with a tiny guy here. This is why I just have so many spatulas, but I use them all for different things. And I sincerely believe that spatulas save you money by getting all of the thing out of the bowl or the can or the whatever to get as much as possible. Bake in a 350-degree oven for 1 hour. Okay. The loaf is out of the oven. It is cooling in the pan for 10 minutes. And now I need to make this glaze. So this glaze consists of just lemon juice and granulated sugar. I think in some of the other loaves, lemon loaf cakes I've made, it's powdered sugar and lemon juice, and you don't cook it like you do this one. So I think this is going to be pretty interesting. It just is the juice of 1 lemon and a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. I have like a couple of little lemon wedges that I don't want to go to waste, so I'm going to just throw in a little extra lemon juice, just a little bit. Don't tell. Not a lot. I just, you know, they were already cut and I was like, let's just throw them in there. Oh, it smells wonderful. Heat and stir to dissolve sugar. So I'm just gonna do this over sort of like medium low and stir it until the sugar is all dissolved. Sugar is all dissolved, if you can see that. My loaf here, it's still somewhat warm. The recipe does say to glaze this or spoon the glaze over while it's still warm. It doesn't say to do this part, but I want some of the glaze to soak in. So I am just gonna, you know, prick this with a fork a little bit. I have this giant, this giant fork. And so I'm just gonna do that just to give it a way to kind of like get in there even more. Maybe I can do it in like a pattern so it looks nice. You know, some of it, it'll soak through, but I've done this for other loaves and cakes and things, and it usually helps. And I've placed this on a wire rack over a sheet pan. So I'm gonna spoon this over, kind of let it do its thing. Oh, it is soaking in. I'm so excited. Ooh. I'm not dumping it all in one spot. I'm trying to get it distributed a little bit, as much as I can. Heck, I might even pick up some of the glaze that's hitting the sheet tray. Maybe pick it up with a pastry brush and just like brush it on. Oh wow, I'm so excited about this. I think it's gonna taste pretty good. I have made like lemon loaf cake before. but I think it was different than this recipe. I don't think it was quite the same, so I'm excited to try this one. I'm gonna let this cool some more before I give it a taste. Here we are. I'm very pleased with how this looks. It has what I feel like is gonna be a pretty nice texture. It felt very nice when I was cutting it, and it's like shiny because of the glaze. So we're gonna see, I can see the flecks of lemon zest in there. Let's have a bite. This is a good one. The recipe says that the flavor mostly comes from the glaze. I would agree for the most part. The glaze has hardened just a little bit, so it has a little bit of a crunch on the outside, which I kind of love. I'm gonna actually take a bite of the bottom part of the loaf too. The top has a lot of glaze just because it had that like little bit of a crack in the center and it soaked right through. So let's try the bottom half. Still a hint of lemon flavor from the lemon zest, but not quite as like, you know, upfront as the sort of top part where the glaze mostly soaked in. But a really nice texture and a very nice flavor, I think, too. Yeah, I like this one a lot. Muffins More was originally published in 1983, and it is the third installment in the very popular Canadian cookbook series, Company's Coming. Now, the metallic writing on this sometimes prevents me from showing it to you. Like the light that shines on it makes it hard to read, but that's what it is. I actually have now the first 3 books in this series. I'm very excited about that. I really want the like 80s versions of these books from when they originally came out. This series was so popular though that a lot of the books have been like reprinted for years and years. And I can see why. These books are kind of a joy to work with. The first one I did was a few videos back, and it was called 150 Delicious Squares. From that video, a lot of people requested Muffins and More, and I just had to do it. So to eBay I went and found a copy. So the copy I have was published in 1986, and there is a very sweet little inscription. I don't know if you can see it. It says, Grandma Cam, Merry Christmas, 1987, love, Jason. So this was a gift to someone's grandma. I love it. How sweet, how sweet. Wanted to show you the back as well. This is the author of the book, Ms. Jean. I am saying Ms. Jean because when I said like her last name in the last video I did and said like, I don't know if I'm saying it right, I got about equal parts of 3 different ways to say it. Some were saying it was correct this way, the way I was saying it. Some were saying, no, it's this way. And some were like, it was just like almost evenly split into thirds. So I'm still not 100% on how to say her last name. So this is Ms. Jean, and she wrote a lot of cookbooks, and she is much beloved in Canada and beyond. Just some wonderful things that I love about these cookbooks so far. I think I'm officially a collector now. There are photographs of all of the dishes, which, you know, I always like to say it's not absolutely necessary, but it is very nice to have a guide. On this page, we have some of the coffee cake muffins that I made. That's this, if I'm pointing the right thing. On the page opposite, you can see there's like a diagram and a key. So all of the drawings of the muffins and things are numbered, and then you can go to the list and see what you're looking at. And, you know, in addition to that, she makes it very easy to find these images. It'll say pictured on page 17 or pictured on page whatever. So you can always go and look, make sure you're kind of on the right track. If something that you've made from this recipe looks very different, is there something up? Did you forget an ingredient? Did you add too much of something? Is something going on? Ooh, well, I must have gotten something on one of these pages because there was something stuck together on the coffee cake muffins page. But you know what? That's a sign of a well-loved and well-used cookbook, so I'm okay with it. The first section of this book is all muffins. So there's a good portion that's muffins. But then the rest of the book is and more. And what does that entail? Besides loaves, because I made a loaf. I was so impressed with this book because it has muffins, it has loaves, it has buns, it has scones. That kind of rhymes. Muffins, loaves, buns, and scones. I think that's the name of my new bakery. Cheese straws. So I made cheese straws from an Edna Lewis recipe So we have a different recipe in here. Oh, and is this, yeah, this is the savory bacon and cheese muffins that I made too. I didn't mean to flip to that page, but I did. Crepes, French toast, waffles, oh my gosh, donuts. These are all quick breads. And then there's a section of like frostings, glazes, things you can add to your quick breads to give them a little oomph or make them special. I actually really loved the glaze that I used for the lemon loaf. It was different than like the other lemon loaves I've made, but we'll get to that in a little bit, I promise. Spreads, just stuff that you can use to like complement quick breads that you've made. There are even crackers in here. I was like, heck yes. Dumplings, Yorkshire puddings, there's everything. There's everything. I also love that the recipes are so clearly written. She includes the 2 different types of measurements, you know, depending on what you use in your country or what you're used to. She's got both there. And then the other thing I love, sometimes the descriptions are so great. I found especially in the loaves, they were just very funny to me and I was sharing them with my friends. One of my favorites was for this apricot cheese loaf, a showy loaf, a bit tart. So aren't we all a little bit of a showy loaf sometimes? I think she might have been running out of steam on this one, the pumpkin tea bread, because the description is a large loaf which has orange in it. I get it. There are a lot of recipes in here that she had to describe. The zucchini loaf was also a good one, a large tender loaf. She also has little, you know, tidbits of advice for life, advice for cooking, and little jokes. I think Jean loved a joke. If you build a huge castle with no bathtubs, you will be known as filthy rich. Love it, Jean. Love it. Oh, there was a muffin recipe in here that I'm pretty sure it's very close to the one my mom used to make. 6-week bran muffins. Let's see if I can find it. I remember this was a muffin batter that you could make and store in the refrigerator and then just bake it, like bake new batches. It would keep in the refrigerator for a very long time. And this was also something that she would make when we would go camping because it was a good make ahead breakfast that didn't require any additional cooking. And here they are, 6-week bran muffins. I think this is the recipe or very close to what my mom used to make. A lot of really good recipes in here. I have been so pleased with the 3 companies coming books that I have added to my collection so far. And I hope to get up to Canada and do some thrifting perhaps because I've been told by my Canadian viewers that these are all over the thrift shops. When I try to look for them on eBay, the shipping from Canada is very expensive. So I've been kind of sourcing them from places in the United States. The last time I went to Canada was 2019, so I'm not sure if I'll get to go again soon or not, but like frankly, I don't live too far from the Canadian border, so we'll see. Maybe I'll make a special trip. Let's talk about the recipes I made today. I kicked things off with coffee cake muffins. These were very good. If you like coffee cake, but you want like a smaller, more individual kind of serving, these were very tasty. The streusel, you know, that you put in there, it kind of comes to the top when you bake it, but the muffin itself it's slightly sweetened. It doesn't have a lot of like extra like warm spices or anything. You're getting a lot of flavor from that like streusel, that sugar spice topping. I really loved the amount of cinnamon and the sugar and spice topping. I'm a huge cinnamon fan. And I don't know if it was just like the amount that I used or the type of cinnamon. It just made things like extra like sweet and spicy and good. I get my cinnamon from Costco a lot of times. Because I use a lot of it in my baking. Sometimes, even if it's not called for, I'll add a little cinnamon if I think it's gonna enhance things. These were really good. I gave a few away, I ate a few, and we're gonna put some in the freezer. So I'll have some for future use for little afternoon tea time treats if I want them. My second recipe was cheese and bacon muffins. These reminded me a lot of like drop biscuits. I think that's basically what they are. Kind of the texture of a Cheddar Bay biscuit with like less moisture because they don't, you know, you don't brush these in butter or anything like that. I thought these were one of those recipes that's like a good start, but you could also customize it a little bit further to your tastes. I really wanted to put herbs in these after I tasted them, maybe some fresh chives. I think that would be really good. Or you could like melt some butter and add a little garlic salt and brush the tops with that, and it would add a lot of flavor. I really like sort of like the base of the muffin with bacon and cheese. I just kind of wanted to boost things a little bit. You could add, you know, maybe some dried herbs, maybe some Italian seasoning. One of the ways that I did try these is I warmed one up in the microwave, cut it in half, and then I spread a little chive cream cheese on it, and that did it. Like, that was really good. Also very good. I think salted butter helps here to like eat it with a little bit of salted butter. So a good base flavor but I would say like if you want to add some things to it just to kind of like make it your own, this would be a good recipe to do that with. My final recipe was lemon loaf. I have made lemon loaves in the past. This one might be my favorite. The texture was very nice. And I think part of the reason I liked it so much is the glaze. The loaves that I've made previously use like confectioner's sugar and milk or like confectioner's sugar and like lemon juice to make sort of almost like an icing type glaze. This was granulated sugar and lemon juice, and you cook it on the stove to make sure everything's really dissolved. So it's almost more of like when you're making a homemade cake and you soak it with like a sugar syrup, it was almost more like that. It gave a really big bright boost of flavor to the loaf. That's where most of your lemon flavor is coming from. The only lemon flavoring that you have in the loaf itself is going to come from lemon zest. And I think you could add more lemon zest if you wanted to. You know, I think maybe I would use a bigger lemon next time, add more of that zest to give it more of that bright zingy flavor. But overall, I think it was like a really good bake. Again, gave some of that away. This was when I'm doing like a week of baking recipes, that's when I tend to give a lot of things away because it's a lot of baked goods. But the good news is these things typically freeze very well. So I will have tea time treats, you know, for a while coming from my freezer most likely. I think out of the 3 recipes, like I liked all of them and I will make them again and I will definitely try more recipes from this book. I think the lemon loaf was maybe my favorite just because I'm a huge fan of like lemon cakes and lemon flavored things. That was my second Companies Coming video. If you like these, I might do some more of them because I wouldn't mind adding a few more Companies Coming cookbooks to my collection. Do you love cookbooks and recipes from the 1980s? I have an entire playlist and I'll link it in the description down below. I'd like to say a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to join us over there, I'll have a link in the description so that you can do that. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I post videos about food, vintage cookbooks, and retro recipes every week. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.